Hello, and last week we talked about the differences between the cinemas in Europe and Taiwan. And this week I would like to continue the discussion. How can we take the European systems and have some advancement for Taiwanese cinematic system? And how are the European independent cinemas so unique? We'll discuss all of that on today's Cinematic Motif. Hey, come on! The screening is about to begin! This is Cinematic Motif. Hello, I'm Wanson, a film critic and a content creator, and welcome back to Cinematic Motif, where I introduce you films in Taiwan and around the world. Alright, so if you remember what we talked about last week, we had Allen on the show with us, and he's here again. Hello, Allen.
It's me again.
Yeah, he's a good friend of the show, and we talked a lot about our experience of going to cinemas in the Netherlands
and Paris.
Because I was in Paris for the earlier this year, and Alan was in the Netherlands last year, right? Okay, so this is basically, I'm gonna be honest with you, we didn't plan this episode because last week we didn't have enough discussions.
Yeah, we had so much to share.
We have we don't have enough time. We didn't have enough time last week, so let's continue our discussion and talk about the independent cinemas in Europe and how they can. The experience in Europe can change the Taiwanese industry a little bit.
So we talk about how the cinema's culture in Paris is so unique.
Yeah.
And you said that it's because all independent cinemas in Paris, they have unique curators, so it's a very blooming industry instead of the big companies, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's very interesting. So I'm going to share the one of the independent film festivals that I went to in Paris. So, you know that earlier this year, there was a movie from Wes Anderson called The Venetian Scheme, right? Mm-hmm. That was a huge. So I was so here's another fun fact. I was in Cannes, Cannes Film Festival. That's for another
too much
episode.
Going on.
That's for another episode. Anyway, I watched that in Cannes Film Festival. But anyway, so in Paris there was there was a retrospective film festival for Wes Anderson in a Parisian cinema. So basically, they play all the old movies of Wes Anderson's, all the classic ones. Mm-hmm. And then I went there to watch the Grand Budapest Hotel. That was a really cool experience. So I must be honest, in these independent cinemas for the Independent Film Festival, on weekdays, there aren't usually that many people. So, because I was there, and I was like, there were only like 3 to 4 people in the cinemas. But anyway, they offer the chance for you to watch these really cool movies. Mm-hmm. And, that's what big cinema companies will never do in their lives. They don't do this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they're not the only one doing this. So you remember I talked about the F1 movie, right? The Formula 1 movie. Yeah. And I watched it in a huge cinema called Max Linder Panorama with the big screen. They also hosted a retrospective for Brad Pitt, because the movie was the leading actor is Brad Pitt. So they had like the films like the one we also talked about on the show very, very long time ago, Babylon. Okay. The other Brad Pitt films. That was a great experience.
So it feels like the advantage of independent cinema is that it offers you opportunity to watch the movies that are not on screen right now. And also you get to enjoy it in a smaller group of people rather than crowded in the cinemas usually we have in Taiwan, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you think this kind of feature can be expanded into Taiwanese independent cinemas? Because we also have a lot of independent cinemas in Taiwan, but they're not as blooming as they are in Paris, right?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with independent cinemas is that in Taiwan, the independent cinemas, they don't have their own characteristics. You need to be stylish. Like, okay, this is probably because of the size of the industry. In Paris, the size of the industry is really, really huge. So they get to pick very specific group of audience for their own cinemas as their customers. But in Taiwan, the industry is rather smaller. But I still think that just like what we had for the situation for the independent bookshops here in Taiwan. The independent bookshops always have their own curation. Have their own. I mean, you have to go to that bookshop to find what you're looking for, and then find the environment that you're looking for. And I feel like that in Taiwan, if we want the independent cinemas to thrive, the independent cinemas should have their own like special thing.
Yeah.
Isn't it like that? Like in Paris, if you want to watch the latest Hollywood films, they are not going to be in the independent cinemas on the first week. Probably on the second week or the third week they will be there. I don't know. I'm not sure. So first of all, I'm not sure if there is a commercial agreement between the movie distributors and the cinemas, like they are prioritizing the commercial chain. But I don't care. Like just for the independent cinemas, they have the best curation. Yeah.
But for the independent cinemas in Taiwan, I also think they need more promotions.
Yeah.
Because not a lot of people know about these kind of independent cinemas if they're not like movie lovers. And actually, I used to go to an independent cinema very often when I was in high school.
Yeah.
But it was closed within like 2 years. So even though they screened a lot of movies that you can watch in the big company movies in Taiwan, not a lot of people know about it, so they don't have that much audience, even though it's really appealing. So I think one problem for the Taiwanese independent cinemas is also that we need to maybe expand it more to all the people, so that they know there's other kind of cinemas instead of the what would you call that, view show?
Right. But I think. Well, in my case, so I also there is independent cinema close my high school. It's really close to my high school. It's totally commercial. Like it's nothing different from the big chains. And that cinema got to still, like, it's still working. It still makes money. First of all, because it is the biggest cinema in the city. And it's very old, and it's commercial. Like they have all the films that's running right now. So probably commercializing thing, that is the key for the independent cinemas to live here in Taiwan. Yeah, but I still think I really want to see that they have some sort of characteristics. Like we were talking about characteristics in a sense of like the curation, the films, right? But the second thing that I want to talk about is how the buildings and the atmosphere.
Yeah, that's also one thing we need to take care. For example, the cinema I went to when I was in high school, it was built inside a museum, and it's a movie museum, and it also used to be like a theater instead of having a screen on that. It's just not just a cinema. But I feel like it's not as comfortable as in all the big company cinemas. So maybe people will also choose the big ones over these independent ones.
Yeah, so as I just talked about in Paris, I went to the movie, the cinema with the biggest screen in Europe, aside from IMAX, right? That is the big thing for independent cinema. If you have this sort of special equipment, well, that's cool. And then also if your cinema itself is a theater, it was an old theater, that is also cool. That's also going to attract people to come here. And I also went to a cinema where they named each room after famous directors.
Okay.
That is also a cool thing. And I mean, you can make your cinema special.
But I think that's also one paradox, because if they do not submit to commercialism, maybe they do not have enough funds to build a character, like to build these kind of characteristics, right? Yeah, it takes money.
I think they can also take advantage of what they already have, the architecture itself. For example, if you're an old theater in a very old building, just make it like a museum. Yeah, or you can combine it with something else, like you just talked about. Like combine it with the how do you call it? The film museum in
it's
Hsinchu.
like a film museum. And they also hold some like exhibition about the movies they're taking on screen. So people would not only go there for the movies, but also for the exhibitions, and also for some books, because there's also a bookstore in it.
Yeah. And then the third thing that I also want to talk about is working together, the industry to cooperate. So if you remember, last week I talked about that I bought a card of independent cinemas in Paris.
Yeah.
And that is a big thing for the Parisian cinemas, because if you have that card, you can watch movies at any independent cinemas in Paris that are on the list, right? So they're trying to cooperate with each other. If any one of the cinemas sell that card to someone else, it's also a promotion for all the other cinemas on the list. You would try to go to different cinemas if you want to.
And it's also more convenient for the customers. So I think convenience is the one key here in Taiwan, because usually when it comes to convenience, people would just go to the department stores and go to the big cinemas, right?
You know why I bought the card? Because like I told you, each cinema has their own curation. So you can't always get any films you want in one single cinema. So when you have the independent cinemas card, you can just pick whichever cinemas that offers the films that you want to watch, right? So that's convenient. Yeah, so it's not just promotion to people, but also working together.
Yeah.
And then there's also a very interesting event in Paris. I really want to share this. So in Paris, in the summer, there's something called Fête du Cinéma. It's not film festival. It's the festival of films. Like the festival in a sense that it's a celebration of films. Yeah. So all the cinemas in France, not just in Paris, that's very interesting. All the cinemas in France, they work together, and on that week, it costs only €5 to. Wait, is that €5? Yes, €5. I remember it was €5 to watch a film, a screening. All across France.
It's quite massive, right?
It's very, very cheap, and it's massive. And that's not just for the independent cinemas, but also for the commercial cinemas. They're all doing the same thing together. So that's part of the government's effort to put things together.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think it also breaks down to that Paris or France, they just have this rich history of cinema culture. So maybe it's easier for them to start independent cinemas like this. While in Taiwan, maybe we do need more efforts to push them to become more popular.
But I think we can also recall, if you are loyal listeners, once again, I did a special, it's a special coverage about the who still goes to cinemas in Taiwan. So we had a chat with Professor Feng Bohan, who's from the National Taiwan University. He's a scholar, researching about the cinematic and entertainment circle, the industry in Taiwan. So he said that his opinion is that Taiwanese cinemas can make themselves more unique, or upgrade their the chairs or the screening rooms or something like that.
So like equipment,
because nowadays people feel like that going to the cinemas, first of all, it's something that they need to take efforts to do.
Yeah.
They have to leave their home. Oh my god, what's that?
Because now we have Netflix.
Yeah. Now we don't go to anywhere. We just stay at home and watch the Netflix and something like that. But anyway, it takes efforts for people to leave the house, and it also takes money for them to go to the cinemas.
Yeah, it's not as cheap as it was before.
Right. So you need to give them some incentives. Yeah, you need to put something special out there for them to go to the cinemas. And now he's mentioning that we're actually raising the price of the cinemas, the tickets, actually. Right now here in Taiwan, that is a trend. And then why don't we just use the money to upgrade the equipment to make the customers feel that it's very, very...
It's worth the money,
it's
right?
It's worth the money, yeah.
And worth your effort to go out your home.
Yes, because we are looking for cinematic experience. We're not. If we're going to the cinemas, we're not looking for a Netflix experience.
Yeah.
So for the cinematic experience, we want sound effects. We want visual effects. We want comfortable chairs,
and also that environment where every person is looking at the movies with you at the same time.
Yeah, we want that communal experience.
Yeah.
And then we also want to discuss with people when we watch the movies after we watch the movies at the cinemas, so that we can discuss with people. And then I think it's important for the cinemas in Taiwan to create that atmosphere. Yeah, like in Paris, we all have the communal experience in cinemas. Yeah, I mean it's interesting.
But again, I think it's gonna be more difficult for the independent cinemas in Taiwan to do this
because they don't have the money.
Yeah, even for the big companies, they're not achieving it just in instance of time, right?
Yeah, but for example, that's just an example. So if you know the V Show Cinema in Taiwan, they have a high-end brand called Movie MUVIE.
Okay.
Okay, so that is their high-end brand. So the price is a little bit higher than the normal visual cinema, but they have really nice equipment like the speakers and the screens with international certificates or something. It's called THX certificate. It's promoted by George Lucas, the director of the Star Wars series. Yeah, so they have this high-end cinemas, and they also have the kind of like the gastronomy experience. How do we call that in English? Like you eat in a high-end restaurant. So they turn the cinemas into a big restaurant.
Okay.
So you get some meals before cinemas. Like it's like really expensive restaurant, and then you go to the cinema and then you experience the movie, and then they will also bring you some other foods in the cinemas.
That's so it's quite a luxury experience.
Very, very luxury. Yeah. So anyway, today we talked about all of these, and these are all things for the industry to take into consideration, because we all want to see the industry to thrive. And that is our hope for the cinematic.
Yeah, even though we recognize the difficulties, but we still have hope.
Yeah, we have hope. All right, so that is all for Cinematic Motif today on Radio Taiwan International. We had 2 weeks of discussion on the differences between European cinemas and Taiwanese cinemas, and we have a lot of takeaways today for the industry here in Taiwan. I hope you enjoy these, and thank you, Allen.
Thank you.
Thank you for offering your insights from Netherlands.
Humble insight.
Humble insights. Thank you so much for tuning into Cinematic Motif. Today, I'm playing you a song that is, you're going to think it's French, but it's not French. It's, how do you call it? French Daigi.
Yeah, it's French Daigi.
Yeah, Daigi is the local language here in Taiwan. By the way, if you want to learn the language, stay tuned on Radio Taiwan International, because coming up next, it's Daigi Made Easy, hosted by me. So you can experience, learn some new words of Daigi upcoming next here on Radio Taiwan International. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, if you want to tell me something, send your email to wanson@rti.org.tw. And I'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Trên trên thoa khơi đùa cả thoa đang hầm mắt thô xoa vô xiên lót đi khá ngoài thoa si xiong dân nê thoa show cô khó qua hồi xiong yếm mơ je prends je vais pas Je prends Dẫu thoát để biết với ta Tuy đi cả cứ xa chỉ để Cứ hiếp chỉ để Oh, sự yêu khẽ Oh, mua yêu ghê Thoáng thao ni thao thế Ya cái sự khoa chế chế Cứ tan chỉ để Điều rosé Je prends Je vais pas Je prends sur mes bras那是你用那样的心如家全世界的奇妙。
All it takes is a click to get to RTI online. You get exercise for your finger and exercise for your mind at rti.org.tw.